Welcome to the Faithflex podcast, your sanctuary for soulful exploration and practical wisdom, where spiritual growth joins together with the hustle of daily life. I'm your host, Monica Roxanne. I'm so glad you decided to join me and countless others because this is your moment for reflection, for growth, for real life change. Whether you're seeking a whisper of inspiration or a robust blueprint for action, the Faithflex podcast stands as a testament to the daring spirit within all of us. So, to my pursuers and my dreamers, to my doers and believers, our journey awaits. Welcome. Hey fam, welcome to another episode of the Faithflex podcast. I'm your host, your girl, Monica Roxanne, and I'm super uber excited today because we're going to dive into the challenging yet essential topic of grief and how faith can provide solace and strength during such times. And so today I have a very good friend of mine and such a huge pillar in our community here in New Jersey and worldwide, and that is Najiyyah Bailey. And she's going to share her personal experience and her insights to us today. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned because we have a great conversation for you today. Listen, there's a name synonymous with innovation and creativity, and that is Butterfly Ease, your one-stop shop for graphic designs, strategies, and solutions for success. At Butterfly East, they transform your vision into stunning visuals. From eye-catching logos to dynamic marketing material, their expert teams craft designs that make your brand stand out. But they don't stop at design. Butterfly East offer comprehensive strategies to propel your business forward. Their tailored solutions ensure your success in a competitive market. Ready to elevate your brand? Visit butterflyease.com and see how their creative prowess can take your business to new heights. Butterfly Ease, where your success takes flight. Now back to the episode. So let's introduce our guest, Najiyyah. It's so happy to have you here on the Faithflex podcast. Thank you so much for joining us this month. I know it's not going to be the last time, but I'm super excited to have you on today.
I'm honored to be here, Monica. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk about a topic that you not only know, we all know all too well, but you know personally, but as well as is part of your life mission. Tell us a little bit about you.
Sure. Thank you so much, Monica, again, for having me. Again, I'm Najiyyah Bailey, and I do a lot of different things, but I think everything kind of is knitted together with supporting people, right, and helping people. And even beyond helping people, specifically helping those that are brokenhearted, those that have gone through things. And I believe that because of my story and the things that I've been through in my life, God has allowed me to experience some things in my life. And I think not for happenstance and not by, coincidence, but because he was preparing me to be able to do what he has called me to do. And so I am an advocate of grief support, grief awareness, being grief educated, being more grief informed. I'm learning every day more and more about becoming more grief informed. But I've always had an interest in supporting those that were hurting, supporting those that, just needed some extra help. And so my own grief journey, I've gone through a lot of grief over my life. And so I remember, as you read, when I wrote my book, Hannah's Heart, on my journey through infertility. Infertility is also another aspect of loss or grief, because sometimes we're grieving things, not necessarily the loss of a death, but sometimes the loss of the ability to do something. And so when I was writing my book and I got the download to do my book, I asked God, I didn't know what. I just heard him say, write the book. And I'm like, about what? Because I've been through so much in my life. And then he specifically gave me instructions to write about my infertility journey. But I was raised by my grandmother. I love her dearly. And because my mom was unable to take care of me. And so many children have gone through that. Many adults that were children once have gone through that in their life, where their parents were unable to care for them regardless of the circumstance and what happened. But that's a type of trauma, just going through that.
Absolutely.
And so, I experienced some things in my life as a child, going through things of rejection and things like that. But I'm so grateful that I was able to be raised by my grandmother, and her and my grandfather created such a loving home, an environment for us that we grew up great, right? But still deal with things as a child, when you're dealing with that. And so since I was about 16, I knew I wouldn't be able to have children. So I used to hide that secret and bear that weight and go through life with knowing that and not sharing it with anybody. But I began to lose people at an early age. I lost friends in high school to violence. And a lot of times we don't think about children when they go through that because they're people that they went to school with every day, and they had to go and bury them. It's a rude awakening. And going through all of that, I lost my grandfather at the age of 17, my father at the age of 17, a grandparent. And then 2000, and so, I thought that I knew what grief was because I had experienced grief, I thought I kind of knew very early on. But when I lost my grandmother in 2011, the closest person to me, it hurt differently. It hurt differently. And there are no Olympics in grief. Like, there's no competition. Tell people there's no competition, right? It's not that my hurt is bigger than your hurt or this loss is bigger than that one. But in 2011, when I lost my grandmother, it was very traumatizing, me being there when she took her last breath, and just a lot of different things that went on. It was traumatizing. I went through it for a long time. Still sometimes I have moments where I am having all of my emotions, but it wasn't until I lost her that I really understood that grief is different, is different, and I understood better. And it was at that moment, and past going through that and getting through that roughest part, that I began to say, I began to have a different look or outlook on others that were grieving. I used to think that I knew what grief was until then. But it gave me a different lens, a deeper sensitivity to people that were grieving. I became more patient with others and things like that. So that really shifted me. And so I've lost many people in my life. My mom in 2015, a very close friend in 2019, and just some people that I lost that I loved along the way. And I'm grateful that now I work at a grief support center. Imagine a center for coping with loss. We have locations in Mountainside and in Newark, and we provide free grief peer support to children and families. So the thing about the support and grief too is, it's not counseling. A lot of people think what we do is therapy and counseling. It's not, because people that are grieving just need community. They need community. They need connection. They need people to talk to be able to share what they're going through. And so I'm so grateful that now I work at a center that provides that support to people. And so I believe the Lord sent me there. I really believe he did. And I'm grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you just shared so many wonderful nuggets here. What I think is most important is it's a personal journey, and we all have experienced it in some way, shape, or form. It's not just the loss of a close person, but it could be a loss of a connection. It could be a loss of something that might be tangible that you've worked hard for. It's still grief, and it could look like anything. So if it is a trauma to you, I think we learn we have to acknowledge it for what it is. So I always like to give the basic definition of grief. At least that's what the dictionary says. And it says that grief is a natural response to loss, encompassing a range of emotions such as sadness, anger, guilt, and despair. And so grief can show up in different ways. We typically associate it with sadness or guilt or some form of despair, but it also can show up in anger. Like, you can be full on angry. And so there's different types of grief. There's different stages of grief. So Najiyyah, do you want to walk us through some of the different stages of grief and your thoughts behind that.
Sure. So I want to debunk a myth. There are no stages to grief. Very popular
Yeah.
thing that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote about the stages of grief. When she did that research, she did the research on people that were dying, and it
Mm.
was their stages of what they were going through as they were dying. And so a lot of times people will share that, and some of these experiences and some of these emotions happen to people that are grieving, but the stages or the levels of grief are that there are none. And so I love to share that with others because emotions, you are allowed to have all of them. You are allowed to be sad, angry, um, guilty.
Yeah.
Guiltiness comes up. A lot of times people will, experience happiness in grief.
Mm.
What?
Yeah.
Happiness, joy, relief. Yes, all of those things can happen while you're grieving. And so a lot of times people will feel guilty because they have moments of joy.
Yeah.
But, it's okay to have all of your feelings when you are grieving. And so there will be some things, a lot of times we call them triggers, some things that happen that are triggers. But
Yeah.
at Imagine, and for those that we like to educate people in grief, being more grief informed, we tell them it's not really triggered. It's called activation. All it is an activation, because trigger denotes something negative, right?
Right.
And as you so eloquently gave the definition of grief, that is exactly what it is. It is a natural response to loss, right? It is natural. This is how God created us. It is a natural response to when you lose something that you love, when you lose someone that you love. Just the activation of your emotions is those are the grief, and it will come whenever. Sometimes it's a smell.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's a commercial. It could be driving past some place. It could be a certain cuisine, something that you're eating. Whatever it is, anything can activate those emotions, and the emotions can be sadness, again, joy. It could be anger, and guilt. A lot of times guilt shows up in grief because we feel like we could have done something different. We should have done something different. And the truth is, the truth is, it's okay that you feel that way, and it's okay to express that you feel that way. We teach our young children, in our facilitated training, when we do support groups, we're taught to not try to change a child's mind about their guilt, but to allow them to talk through it. And so if someone comes to me and says, I feel guilty about, it's my fault my dad died, and I'm just gonna, why do you feel that way? Can you explain that more to me? I'm not going to jump off the back and say, even though I want to, it is not your fault.
Right.
Because we're not fixing people. We're just allowing them to have these feelings and allowing them to come to their own conclusions, And so that's what I believe about the stages of grief.
Hey there, Faithflex listeners. In the heart of New Jersey, there's a place where hope finds a home. It's called Imagine, a center for coping with loss, which offers a sanctuary for those navigating the difficult journey of grief. Here, Imagine provides free support groups and virtual services for men, women, and children coping with grief. And individuals and families can share their stories, find comfort in community, and begin to heal together. With a compassionate team dedicated to offering support and understanding, Imagine ensures no one has to face their loss alone. Whether in person or online, their services are designed to meet you where you are, offering a lifeline when you need it most. So discover a place where healing begins and visit imaginenj.org to learn more about their free programs and how they can help you or someone you love. Imagine, a center for coping with loss, guiding you through grief with care and compassion. Now, back to the episode. Absolutely. In the scripture, it says, Psalms 34:18, it says, the Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. So what is that saying? He's close to them. He's not trying to fix it. He's there, he's next to them, giving them that support, that lean, but he's not trying to fix it because it is a natural response. He is fully aware that it's there. He's fully
Yeah.
aware that it exists. And oftentimes it's how we see God determines how we kind of navigate and engage with others, because he fully created us with these emotions.
Yeah.
And I don't think we do a good job, and this is probably another topic we can talk about later, but I don't necessarily think we do a good job of teaching people how to be in their own feelings and their emotions in a natural state that is healthy. We try to over spiritualize it or spiritualize it away. And I think that has caused more of issues and a bigger detriment to us in this space. Why mental health has now become not the newest thing, but people are starting to peel back the layers. And I'm hoping, in my prayer is that the church definitely steps up to support those in it. So when you're talking about the different stages and giving people an opportunity to feel and exist, how do you see the world, us allowing people to actually feel guilty? Because let me share my story. So when my mother passed away in 2014, June 11, 2014, I was happy that she passed, only because I know she was sick. So I was like, okay, she's free. It's okay now. She doesn't have to struggle. So I remember I absolutely felt that level of relief and happiness, which was for me at the time really weird. But then over time, I'm like, man, I was so hard on mom, but I think she was probably going through the depression and I didn't understand, right? And we didn't talk about it in the church, because at that time in the 90s and even now in the 2000s, we don't talk about grief or sadness or feeling. So what are your thoughts on, are we doing better as a community in the faith-based community, or do we have a long ways to go?
I think we've made some efforts towards supporting people. It has shifted a little bit. I think we have a long way to go in the church. And it is my heart's desire to see the church become more grief informed. Like, I want to educate the masses. Like, I want to host grief education workshops for faith-based communities. That is like my desire and my goal. I'm like something I'm like actually working on right now, because of, like you said, when you know better, you're like, oh, I wish I would have known. Like, I share so much of that with you, Monica. So thank you for sharing that. And I think a lot of people are similar. Like, once you know better, you do better, right? Or you're more tolerant, you're more aware of how to help people navigate. And some of the things that I used to do, to people that were grieving, like, now that I'm like, I know I knew better, but once I've gone through grief myself, and now that I've, had training in grief, and I continue to train myself, continue to educate myself around grief awareness, I cringe sometimes at what others do. There's this thing that we have is in Imagine, we call the tissue issue. And it's like, you don't bring people tissue unless they ask for it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're bringing attention to them, like, and people do these things out of the goodness of their hearts. Like, people sincerely want to support others. But what happens is we do a disservice to folks. I was in church Mother's Day, right? This Mother's Day was fine for me. This is how grief works. I was totally fine. But last year, I was a wreck. I don't know if I felt like Mother's Day was on steroids, like, had threw up, like, it was just all over, mothers and daughters with each other, and it brought me so much sadness that day last year. I was so sad, and I was trying to fight through my tears in church. Like, after church, I immediately got out of there, like, because I just had to go, and I was like, I gotta get out of here. And I know some people notice, like, where are you at? Where you going? I'm just like, you just have to know sometimes when people are going through things, it's okay not to show attention. Like, because showing me attention brought more, attention down on my head,
Yeah.
that I just
That extra pressure.
everybody looking at me. Everybody's looking at me. Now this year I was totally fine on Sunday for Mother's Day in church, but what I realized, it was so beautiful. Our greeters ministry bought a gift for all the mothers, and so they asked all the mothers to stand, right?
Yeah.
And I immediately remembered that I used to not be a mother, and I was very devastated because of it, right? I was devastated because I wanted children. And I was like, we don't think about these things when you don't go through this stuff. And so I was like, how about, I wish we would have had a conversation about it, because we could have said, hey, how about just all women?
Yeah.
Let's all women stand. We want to honor you for being mothers, for having a mothering spirit, for nurturing, include everyone, because we don't know how those things activate people's emotions. And then I'm not saying that we are responsible for everybody's feelings.
Absolutely.
But if we are the church, we're the body of baptized believers, we are a community of faith, we should be able to support one another and help each other once we know better. And so I pray that we do better. There are some things that I hear read at funerals, poems, the church, and proclamations that say, a poem that says, do not mourn for me. What? Or do not cry for me.
Yeah.
What? No, we should take out all of that language, because what we do is we make people feel guilty for mourning. We make people feel guilty for crying, right?
Yeah.
And you say, don't cry. Yes, cry as much as you need to. And so, I think that we have a long ways to go, and we just need to be educated. Again, people are doing this stuff just because they want to help and they want to show love, but they're doing it in the wrong way. And we just need to be better equipped and better informed to be able to serve people that are brokenhearted.
Absolutely. I totally agree. There's so much to unpack there, but I think one of the things that I find to be interesting is, for Mother's Day, so I'm not a mom, right? So I'm single. I don't have any children. And do I want to be? But one day, yes, I hope that, I get married and have children. Now, I'm older now, and I'm like, well, listen, if it doesn't happen that way, that's all right. Someone wrote me a beautiful card. I went to lunch with a couple of people, and they gave me a card, and they said, listen, you mother everyone on the podcast. You mother people through Lurch Dance. You are a mother to so many. And I was like, oh my gosh, I never really saw it that way. And I think those moments is, even though my mother's not here and I was, missing mom, but for me, I wouldn't be, like you said, included in those celebrations because I'm not a mom. But for those to acknowledge being a mother is more than just giving birth per se. It is an opposite of nurturing those who either you're assigned to, you're with, that you walk in the same journey with. And so I totally get that, because sometimes we don't mean any harm, and we're like, oh, I just didn't mean no harm. That's what we normally do in the church. And the usher will walk over and give you the tissue. I'm like, ma'am, time out. I need you to move away. Let me work through this on my own, right? And so
sometimes people, you just have to have a relationship with people in order to be able to go to them that way. Everyone can't minister to a person that is crying or grieving. And something you said, like, I think that just the mere acknowledgement, if we would step outside of the box and merely acknowledge the person that would not be normally acknowledged that day, to help them feel seen, that is ministry. That is life changing. Because I remember how I felt being childless and wanting to have children. I was married. And I could not have children. It was something that consumed my mind every single day. And I would be in that church on Mother's Day cringing. And then not only that, because I had a terrible relationship with my mom. So even people that have not had lost mothers, sometimes just
they lost a relationship.
The loss of relationship. So we just need to remember to acknowledge these things, because guess what? Mother's Day ain't biblical. It ain't in the Bible.
Right.
We don't have to celebrate it. Same thing with Father's Day. These things are great, but if we could just merely acknowledge the ones that may feel like they're not noticed, like nobody, I don't matter. because
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
single and I'm unmarried, and
Yeah.
or I don't have children, or
Yeah.
I lost my babies. Like,
Yeah.
there's people that have multiple miscarriages
Yeah.
that are suffering through Mother's Day. And so we just have to merely acknowledge that, because it makes them feel, oh, I am seen, I am loved. Somebody thought enough of me. Because
Yeah.
when you are going through loss, sometimes you feel alone.
Calling all liturgical dancers. Do Ministry presents Dance to Deliver, a dynamic dance conference designed to push you to your greatest potential. Whether you're just starting out in ministry or a seasoned veteran in the worship bars, this conference is for you. Join us for a transformative experience where healing, deliverance, and breakthrough are at the forefront. Dance to Deliver offers powerful workshops, inspiring sessions, and opportunities to connect with fellow dancers who share your passion for worship. Don't miss out on this life-changing event. Visit dancetodeliver.org to register and learn more. Unleash your worship and dance like never before at Dance to Deliver. Now, back to the conclusion of this episode. Yeah, absolutely. I one of the greatest loss that I've witnessed is my two sisters. So I had one sister who had a miscarriage, and during that process of uh, it was actually a stillborn, and so that was really different. It was my first time experience. I'm trying to support her, and I was like, "Girl, I'm having a moment." Like, it's just how do you help someone navigate through that? And then I have a sister that lost her first child. He was only 3 months old, and she took him to daycare. The daycare was negligent and left the bottle in his mouth, and he died of asphyxiation. So I had to watch my younger sister just go through that whole process, and in those who are with individuals, right? Like, I held him that morning, and then at 12 o'clock, you're saying he's not there. What is that? And so I put my own emotions aside, and I'm trying to support her in this grief, and she's completely torn apart, completely devastated. And then to go through the funeral portion of it, through that level of grief, it was the smallest box I've ever seen in my life. And then to minister through dance at that moment was the toughest moment. And then to support her while she's giving the eulogy or speaking about her son, it was just one thing after another. And so those moments where you're questioning God, like, is this for real? Is this the devil? And then sometimes I think us as Christians, because we don't know the word well, we give these scriptures that has nothing to do with that moment. And then we, again, like you said earlier, we activate or create additional feelings like guilt or failure or anger, because our faith is wavering. So my question to you is, how can we remove the stigma of grief to create a better space for those who are grieving? Like, what are some of the first steps and your thoughts there?
Yeah, I believe that we just need to create spaces for people to have their feelings and not overly spiritualize everything. The word of God is true. Y'all know, Monica, I am the Bible geek. I love God's
Absolutely do.
word, and I believe every single word. And because I'm not going to say and we can also let people have their feelings, because the Bible says to cast all your cares on him, right? If we're supposed to cast all our burdens, how am I coming to the Lord with fake? No, Lord, I don't understand. I don't understand, God. I need to cry out to you. I need to do a lamentation. I need to lament. I need to scream. I need to cry. I need to get it out. And so I believe that we need to create spaces to allow that to happen, and not leave people where they are, but allow them to have these feelings. And I believe that the reason why we don't create these spaces, or we're intimidated about not filling it up with scripture and just, things that we want to fix, the reason why we do that is because we're afraid to say the wrong thing.
Hey fam, thank you so much for joining us today on this heartfelt journey as we explore the topic of grief and faith. We hope today's discussion has brought you some comfort and insight into our faith and how it can guide us through our times of sorrow. And as we conclude part 1 of this series, remember that grief is a natural and personal process. It's important to allow yourself to feel and express your emotions, knowing that you're not alone. Remember to reach out to your faith community, friends, and family for support and lead into your faith. So if this episode blessed you, remember to like, share, and subscribe. And I hope you will join me next week for part 2 of Finding Faith in the Midst of Grief, a Journey of Healing, as we continue this important conversation with our special guest, Najiyyah Bailey, as she shares with us her journey through grief and healing. And this is something you don't want to miss. It's going to be a meaningful and uplifting conclusion to our series as we continue to flex our faith. Until next time, thanks everybody. And that's a wrap on today's soul-stirring episode of the Faithflex podcast. I hope you're leaving feeling uplifted and equipped to turn your everyday experience into stepping stones for spiritual growth and practical living. Thank you for tuning in and sharing your time with me. Be sure to subscribe, share it with your friends, and leave a review if you enjoyed the journey today. Your support means the world to me, and it helps bring this message to more listeners who are searching for harmony between their spiritual walk and action. Until next time, remember to flex your faith.